Hey y'all, severe weather. So, severe weather, we're going to focus on three different types: thunderstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes. And severe weather is all related to the vertical movement of warm air that is not stable. Severe weather produces some amazing pictures. For those people who are crazy enough to get near that close, some storm chasers. Okay, so the first one we're going to go over is our thunderstorms. Thunderstorms are storms that produce thunder and lightning. And this is a cool little fact. At any given time, there are about 2,000 thunderstorms occurring on Earth. And there are about 45,000 thunderstorms per day across the globe. Pretty cool. Thunderstorms occur in warmer locations. Near the equator experiences the most thunderstorms, but thunderstorms need some warm air in order to happen. Some pretty amazing lightning. So thunderstorms form when you have really warm, humid air that rises. So remember, warm air is less dense than cool air. And as a result, it rises in an unstable area. That large amount of warm air that rises and humid air, so it has water in it, forms a cloud. And eventually the weight of the water vapor becomes too much for the cloud to hold, and it falls out as heavy precipitation. So lightning happens when electricity is discharged from a thundercloud, and then it comes out of the cloud as lightning. Thunder is just a sound. And thunder is a shock wave that we hear as the heated air expands really fast and violently. So thunder is, because the air is less dense and rising, we have the clouds that have formed, and then we have electricity that's discharged from the thundercloud. And then when it's discharged from the thundercloud, lightning is really hot. And thunder is the shock wave that we hear as that hot air around it is heated up and violently expands. Pretty cool stuff. Tornadoes. So tornadoes are violent windstorms in the form of a vertical column of rotating air called a vortex. And there are about 770 tornadoes each year in the U.S. Most tornadoes form as a result of thunderstorms. So when warm air is pushed up quickly, it can cause the slower moving air below it to start to spin. It has to be the perfect recipe for a tornado to happen. That's why they don't just happen in any thunderstorm. And hurricanes are whirling tropical cyclones that produce winds of at least 119 miles per hour. In other parts of the world, they're known as typhoons, cyclones, tropical cyclones. Here, we know them as hurricanes. And they all form in tropical locations because warm water is their fuel. You cannot have a hurricane without warm water. So hurricanes form when large amounts of water vapor condense and form thunderstorms with very little cloud rotation. The eye is the center of the hurricane, and that actually has the least amount of precipitation and the lowest winds. The eye wall has the greatest winds and precipitation. And so here's a diagram of the eye and the eye wall. The eye is actually very clear in a hurricane. The eye wall, which is the edge of the eye, is the part of the hurricane that's the strongest. So hurricanes have the greatest range of air pressure because there's so many different parts of a hurricane. It's like the anatomy of a hurricane. And as you go across from the eye to the eye wall and out to the edges, you have very different air pressures, ranges of air pressure. A storm surge is a very wide dome of water that sweeps across the coast as the hurricane's eye moves onto the coast. So here's a diagram. The top shows a normal high tide and the average sea level. And then the bottom shows the height of the storm surge. So you see the normal high tide, and then you see how much taller the sea actually gets. And then you can see, because of how much taller it gets, how much more coast that it the water covers up. You see the buildings on the top are covered up on the bottom pretty much. Hurricanes are classified by intensities using something called the Saffir-Simpson scale. And 1 is the least strong and 5 is the strongest hurricane. And you can see that they're broken up by different air pressures and different storm surge and different wind ranges of wind. So greater than 155 miles an hour, greater than an 18-foot storm surge, you're going to have a Category 5 hurricane. Those are the most destructive. And then 74 to 95 miles an hour is Category 1 with 4 to 5 feet storm surge. So ways that hurricanes lose energy and stop moving are they either come into contact with land and the friction from the land slows the hurricane down, or they run out of warm water. So remember, warm water is one of the main ingredient for a hurricane. And so if a hurricane is moving in a place that does not have warm water, then it's going to just dissipate and fall apart. Same as if it comes into contact with land, it's going to slow it down, and it also is no longer over warm water. So you have those two things that are going to create the hurricane to stop.